officially live and we are, okay, so I think we are officially recording this thing. Okay, so let's go with the first questions here. Do we have any immediate questions? Okay, somebody was asking, is there a way to print out the regression formula? I can show you that. Let's see, Eric Lewis, can you tell me what your question is regarding the probability target flag from sync session 2015, whatever? What would be your question specifically on that?
Yes, can you hear me?
I sure can.
Okay. I don't totally understand the formula of the p target that I put up. It's the second part. The first part I understand when you're setting up y hat. But I don't understand the nature of this formula. I guess I missed it during your lecture. I'm not sure.
Okay, so this is, so you understand where y hat comes from. I'll tell you what, let's do. I think we can kill two birds with one stone if I answer Paul's question and your question. How about that?
Yeah, that's fine. No problem.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I just was pulling up some old sync session code that I thought I would just use right off the bat. I'll tell you what I'll do. How about if I try to just solve a really trivial example right here? And I'll go from beginning to end, and I'll try to do something involving both a categorical variable like the education and also the home value. How about that?
Yep.
Okay, so just a second. I have to get rid of, I've got a phone ringing in the background. Oh, they just hung up. Perfect. Okay. And I'm going to do one other thing is I have to look up the syntax for something. So let me just go scouting around real quick on some of my old sync session. I'm just looking up the syntax of something that's not in my frontal lobes right off the top of my head. Might be in here. I'll just go through these things one after the next. It's in here someplace. I'm looking for the syntax scoring. Score, there it is. Perfect. Score out equals. Okay, perfect. Okay, so does anybody have a problem with what I'm about to embark on? I'm just want to solve. I'm going to build a model. It's not going to be the best model, but it's going to be a model. Does anybody have an issue with what I'm about to do here? And if I do, you got to tell me. I'm hearing deafening silence. How about a resounding yes? How about everybody? We want to see this, Don. Well, I'm not getting that either.
Yes.
Okay. Starting to get some yeses here. Anybody says no, we'll go down a different path. Okay. Now, with what I'm about to show you here, my one problem is that I cannot see the chat window. So let me see something here. I notice on the phone that we have D is on the phone and a few other people are dialed in. D, can you hear me?
Yeah, but I'm not on the phone.
Okay, you're on some kind of an audio device.
Yep, just on my computer.
Okay, I'll take that. So
okay.
I'll tell you what you can do. You can be my helper today, and if you see anything in the chat window, because I'm not able to see it when I'm monkeying around on my SAS window, would you please feel free to interrupt me, and I'll try to answer your question.
Okay.
Or answer the question. So just I don't want to just go. Sometimes I just go off on a tangent here. Okay. So here's what I'm going to do. If I were to solve a problem like this in a real world environment, the first thing you always do is, I'm setting up, and this is just some housekeeping stuff here. You can do the same thing a lot of different ways by hard coding in values. I like to use macros, and incidentally, anybody on the phone, if you do something like this, like create in file and just start using this thing as a macro variable, that's worth some bonus points because it's good technique. And the nice thing about this is you can turn around and change the name of your file later on, you know. So if your file, you know, you get a new file called AAAAA Logit, you just make one change and everything is automatically updated. So just as a best practice, it's a good idea to use macro variables. So the name of the file that I'm, you know, my insurance file is called Logit Insurance. I'm not sure if that's is that the same name that I gave you guys, or is this the same file with a different name? I've got so many files floating around, I forget which one's what. This is the file that I gave you guys as homework. I just don't know if I named it the same thing. D, what do you think? Is this the same name? D is suddenly went quiet.
No, I don't know.
Oh, you don't know? Okay. Let's see. It's the same. Okay, we got some people saying it's the same. Perfect. Okay. So the first thing that I do is I set all this stuff up, and I usually just do a proc contents data equals, and then if I type ampersand in file, run, when SAS sees this ampersand in file and with a dot on the end, he goes, oh, that's a macro variable. And he jumps up here and he says, okay, oh, that's this library logit dot whatever. And then he says, what's this? And then he realizes that that's a library called, you know, it circles all the way on back up. I'm getting a little too clever by half, but the point is, if you copy this code, you should be just fine. And the only thing you have to do is update this guy right here. But okay, so let's run this code and see what happens. We should be able to see what variables are in our file. And here they all are. You know, we've got the age and the blue book of the car and the car age and the car type, etc. And we want to figure out, we're going to build the first model here, which is the flag. Did the guy crash his car or not? So I usually just see what variables are there. And the other thing that I'll do is I'll do a proc print. Data equals in file. And then you don't want to print all of them because that's going to be quite a bit of output. So let's just print the first 10. So, you know, after I see what's in there, then I just print them. And so I see I've got this index variable. This guy did not crash his car. He doesn't have any kids driving. He's 60 years old, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I've got all this information. So what I'd like to do is maybe we can do who's going to crash their car based upon how about their education level, or maybe whether or not their car, okay, how about whether or not their car use is private or commercial? Okay, so we'll use that, and we'll also see if the, I don't know, their, what else? What other variable? Let's have the travel time to work. Let's use those two numbers. Okay, so we're going to build a really simple model using only those two variables. And those two variables, and for some reason there's my screen's updating. So the first thing that I like to do is okay, this is not going to be a very good model, but I want to build a model that has one categorical variable and one continuous variable. So I'm going to do a proc frequency. Data is equal to in file. And we're going to do a table command. And we're going to look at car underscore use. So did you and I have to turn off this thing. There we go, because that's starting to eat into my time here. Okay, so let's just do a proc frequency. So the first thing I do is I examine my variables, and you can see that there's nothing missing from commercial use or private use. I've got all the variables are there. And let's see about a proc univariate. Or we'll just do, I'm just copying and pasting some other code, cannibalizing it. And what was this variable called? Travel time to work? I want something that may have a missing value. How about that? So let's see if this guy's got a missing value. And n missing is the number that are missing.
So there's a question out here.
Okay,
It
what's the
says,
question?
is there a way to have SAS on demand keep the results from what we previously ran? I lose it each time I run new code.
It should keep, are you saying that the actual physical output, or are you talking about the data files?
The output.
The output. I'd have to look at SAS on demand. I thought it kept it. I mean, I thought that it just kept adding. I thought it just kept appending. I didn't realize it cleared the output. See, I use it on my PC because SAS gives me a copy for a PC. I don't use the SAS on demand. Does anybody in the class have an answer to that question? Do they? Does SAS clear out the output every time? What kind of answer are we getting there?
None. No response.
No response.
Oh, it's
it
Matthew
clears it out.
Young says it clears out.
Well, I'll be darned. I don't have an answer to that question. Please, can someone after this email me, and I'll see if I can find somebody inside of SAS technical support that can give me if there's a workaround for that. So, okay. So, anyways, so the first thing I do when I have a problem like this is, okay, I examine all of the data, but we're just going to examine this one variable. I'm hoping it's got some. No, it doesn't have anything missing. Let's find something that's missing. Probably income. Oh yeah, income has something missing. So let's do income. We'll do income and travel time to work. How about both of those? So let's see. Income. Yeah, the income is 445 of those guys are missing. Okay, so we're going to build a model with those three variables. And let's just see what the distribution of both of these guys is. So this is the travel time to work, and it's sort of a nice distribution. There's no major outliers that are keeping me awake at night. And I'm assuming this is the income here, yeah. And so we know that the average for the income is what? Well, here's the median right here. We'll use that guy right there. Okay, so I explored, I'll look for outliers, and if there's outliers, I might do one of those. Remember back in the first unit where I had, has everybody gone in and sometimes I get questions from students, and I suspect they don't realize that I have some notes out here. Do you students know, does everybody know that I've got some PowerPoints that I put together that really walk through a lot of this process? Is that new to anybody? I may not have talked about it. This is sort of the first time that's happened, and I may have forgotten to mention it in the sync session. So I'll show you where that is real quick. So here's our course. So if you go into the home page right here, in the course, right here, like for example, in week 1, I have, if you look at let's say the reading, like Unit 1 linear regression, if you click on that guy, I've got some PowerPoints and some SAS code. Is that new to some people? I mean, in other words, you can download this. And one of the things that I have is, if you look at this, I've got some transformations. So people were like, well, what do you do if you've got outliers? Well, variable transformations, this is from last week. You know, I just click on this guy and I would say, well, this is some ways to fix missing values, and this is what the code looks like. This is how do you handle outliers, and this is what the code would look like. So I've got some questions in the chat window, or?
No, he said not new, you covered this. And then
Perfect.
Paul's got predictor variables with zero inflated distributions. Do you have any recommended transformations?
Well, what I will, when you have a zero inflation, we're going to talk about that for the next assignment, but we can also do it here. You're talking about the situation where you're trying to predict if the guy crashes his car, what's it going to cost you? And you're trying to predict damages, correct? And that's Paul talking?
Yeah, that's Paul.
Okay. Yeah, Paul, I'll show you how to deal with that in the same exact context as this. Okay.
And then he also wrote predictor variables with lots of zeros.
Predictor variables with lots of zeros?
Yes.
Or target variables with lots of zeros?
He wrote predictor.
That should not be a major problem. I don't see that as going to be an issue for us. The bigger issue is what happens when you have a zero inflation on the target. Like, most people don't crash their car, but when they do, it costs you like $5,000. So you got this big spike at zero, and then the rest of them are like, you know, around the average of 5,000. We'll talk about that. But you shouldn't have to worry about the fact that there's lots of zeros in any of your predictor variables. If you want, you can do something like, if you've got like a lot of zeros and then the rest of these things are scattered out really, really widely distributed with lots of outliers, you can do a transformation, like either you can put them into buckets, or you could perhaps do a standardization, you know, when you divide by standard deviation. There's some things you can do, but unless you've got some really horrible outliers, that's not a major problem. You should still be able to get.
Else.
Is that okay? Okay. So
yes.
Anyways, so the first thing we did is, if you recall, I just checked to see if any of these guys were missing, and then I checked these two variables, income and travel time. So the first thing we're going to do is I usually will copy my data file into another data file so I can't screw anything up. So this is just going to copy everybody that's in file. I'm going to move it into temp file here. Okay. Now, along the way, let's also fix some stuff. Okay. So we know that travel time doesn't have any. We don't have to do anything to the travel time because it doesn't have any missing values. However, remember, income does have some missing values, right? So we're going to have to fix that, and we'll fix it right now. So we're going to just say, we're going to create a new variable called imputed income, and that's going to equal the income. So we're just going to copy this variable into here. But hey, what happens if this guy is missing? Well, what we're going to do is if the imputed income is missing, and this is the command for that, then the imputed income is going to equal, and we're going to say that the income, what did we decide was the average for that guy? I don't know. We'll use the median, since I think it just printed that. Oops. Okay, the mean here is, for this guy, is 61,898. We'll call it 62,000. How about that? So if we don't know your income, we're going to assume you make $62,000. Okay, there you go. And we don't have to do any other transformations because we don't have any missing values for the car use, and we don't have any missing values for the travel time. Now, let's build ourselves a logistic regression. And let me just do a copy and paste here. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do proc logistic, and here's our data. And for every one of your class variables, like car use, education, job, you got to tell SAS that it's a class variable. So we're using a class variable, and it's going to be car use. So this is the command. And again, these are in the notes if you haven't seen them, but this is just, if you forget everything else and you don't remember seeing this, just, I'm going to post this code right after this sync session. Just know that, okay, class car use / parameter equals reference. You don't have to put that parameter equals reference, but this is going to make it a heck of a lot easier to code this thing up when you write your score code. So then we're going to say our target flag, and all we have to do at this point is give them the variables. And we know that car use is going to be one of our variables. Travel time will be our other variable, and the imputed income. And remember, the imputed income doesn't have any missing values. We fixed it. Remember, right here, we fixed that code. So the next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to score this thing. I mean, you're going to want to generate some scores. Why? Because we're going to want to test to see if our model we're going to write a score program in a minute, and we're going to want to test to see if it's right. So we're going to do score, and then we're going to say out is equal to, we'll give it a name, I don't care what, scored file. There we go. And so we can do proc print data is equal to scored file observations equals 10. Run. Okay, so let's run this code right to here. So we've run everything before that. So here's our output. We've just run our logistic regression. And this is not a very good model, but let's take a look at some of our output. Well, let's see. This is, I think, crashing the car. What is it? Like 26% of the people crash their car. Is that what the statistic is? I don't remember. Whatever it is for our data set. This is a model where we assume everybody has, we assume that everybody has a 26% chance of crashing their car. And the AIC value is 9,419. However, if we use our model with our equations, when I look at your travel time to work, your income, and what you're using your car for, the AIC value is smaller. So that's telling us that our model is better than just guessing the average. So this tells us our model is at least better than doing nothing. Okay. So this is our equation. So let's, we'll write this guy up in just 1 second, but let's also see, remember we scored and we wanted to see what the first 10 guys are. And the first 10 guys say that the probability that you crash your car if you're this first guy, and this first guy has an income of $67,000, and he drives 14 minutes to work, and he uses his car for private use, his chances of crashing his car are 18%. This guy has a 27% chance. This guy's got a 24%. Okay, so now let's put this model into production. Okay. So data deploy file. And we're going to set our in file. Now this is how this is going to be pretty simple. The first thing you do when you write score code, and this is really important, a lot of people forget this because it's so easy to forget, but the first thing you have to do is everything you did to the data set before you ran the proc logistic. So whatever you did to that data set, you got to put into your score program. So what did we do? We fixed this guy, remember? We fixed him. So you're going to have to fix him down here. Okay, so there we go. So now SAS, we've got this guy fixed. Now what's the next thing we're going to do? Now we have to calculate our log odds. So y hat is going to equal what? And somebody asked, what's the easiest way to put this into production? Well, here's the way to do it. Copy. And paste. That's our best friend here. So now what do we do? Okay, and here's my intercept is right here. Okay, so now the question a lot of you are wondering is, well, what do you do about this car use? That's going to be as easy as falling in love. You're going to love that. Okay, so what it's saying is the y hat is equal to this constant value. Where do we get that? We got it right there. Then, if they use their car for commercial purposes, we're going to add the number 0.7278. Why? Because that means that if you use your car for work, you're more likely to crash it. So, okay, so we have car use, and then you just put in, open paren, double quotes, close paren, times. So what does this command do? What it says is car use, remember, is going to have a value of private or commercial. This command in SAS will do this. If your car use is in this list, and the list only has one guy in it, but if I had a lot of lists, if I had more, I could do like if it's in commercial or fun or, you know, I don't know, drag racing, whatever. If any of these is true, he's going to return a 1. Otherwise, it's a 0. So if he's using his car for commercial purposes, then this value is going to be a 1. In fact, we can even put parentheses around it just to make it a little bit more readable. Then we multiply a 1 or a 0, depending, by this value. Now we just have to add it all together. So this guy, whoops, plus this guy, plus this guy, plus this guy, and we put a semicolon. There we go. That's hopefully going to work. Wouldn't it be funny if it didn't? And then I look kind of, as my kids say, my teenagers, Dad, you're lame. Okay, hopefully that's not going to happen. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to see if this worked. So I like to do this bits and piecemeal. So let's do proc print data equals deploy file. Observation equals 10. Run. Let's see if that even works. Look at that. Works perfect. But hey, look, this thing says -15, but if you look up here, The answer was 18%. Why? Well, that's because this is the log odds. It's not the real answer. This is the log odds. We got to convert it to odds, and then we got to convert it to probability. So we can do this in 2 steps or 1 step. If you want to do it in 1 step, we can just do the probability that the target flag is 1 is going to equal, and you can do this. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's do. Let's just turn this into we'll do it exactly like your question. Okay, I could do exponent. So if I do exponent of this guy, then what will happen is this will convert the guy to odds. Okay. However, we want probability, and so the probability is going to be 1 plus this guy on the bottom here. So odds over 1 plus odds is going to be the probability score. So let's see what we get now. This is 18,053, and this is 18,054. It's the same answer. 27,982, 27,980. So these are correct with some rounding error. So that I'm perfectly comfortable with that. Let me give you a little safety tip too. Sometimes these numbers get very, very large, this log odds guy. And if that happens, when you do these exponent functions, SAS starts choking on it because the number gets too big. So probably a good idea is to put a safety valve in there. Don't let this number get too big. So, if y hat is greater than, 9999, then y hat is equal to 9999. So we'll never let it get beyond that. If you start getting, as this guy gets bigger and bigger and bigger, it's going to get closer to 1. I mean, you could probably stop it at 99 even. It doesn't matter. Because when you do e to the 99 power, it's a pretty big number. Likewise, if this thing gets to be really, really small, like if y hat is less than minus 99, then y hat equals minus 99. This is just, the point is, if your value gets very large like this, like around 99 and above, this thing is going to get really big, and this will get really big, and this answer here will get really close to 100%. If this number is really negative, this thing will get really super close to 0, and this will get really super close to 0, and 0 divided by 1 will get really close to 0. The point is, you don't necessarily, mathematically, it's fine. You can have this number be negative a googol. It doesn't matter. But this guy just can't handle it. The computer usually can't handle it, and it might cause you to get throw an error and say, this is so big, I want to just give it a missing value. So this is just like a safety valve, and you don't have to stop it there. Maybe make it 999. I don't care. Maybe do this. But this is how you deploy a model. And then when you're done deploying the model, you test it. How did I test it? I scored this guy, and then I printed out the first 10, and then I did my deploy model, and I printed out the first 10, and then I just checked to make sure these numbers were the same. So if I look at this guy, 28236, come down here, 28232. That's just a rounding error. So this is kind of how I would solve this problem. And the other nice thing is, if you put this command in here, this guy and this guy, SAS is even obliging enough to give you a nice rock curve if you really want that. Let's see if we got that somewhere. So I thought it was around here. Thought I had a rock curve. Oh, there it is. This isn't a very good rock curve, but okay. So anyways, let's hop back into the sync session here, and let's see if the blue jeans here. Do I have any questions on what I just did? I'll certainly post that code, and you guys will be able to see it. But do I have other questions or thoughts, or did I totally lose people with that? Makes sense. Well, I like Seth Thompson. Seth, you are now my favorite student, and so is Eric Lewis, because you guys all said it was clear. Nobody else wants to be my favorite student and say I did a good job? Just Seth and Eric. The rest of you guys are. It's there, Tanya. At this point, I think these are just pity compliments now. Okay. So, and now solving this problem, believe it or not, guys, I'm going to give you the dirty little secret about this. The dirty secret about this is it's not all that hard. My experience from this data set, and also from teaching this class for a couple of years now, is just like I've been saying all along, keeping it simple. It's when students start doing things like, well, I took the logarithm, then I took the arc sine of this, and I have a four-factor interaction in there, and they've got such ridiculous complexity, and then they end up with a result that's worse than pulling numbers, rolling the 20-sided dice. And the people who are like, well, I just fixed all the missing values with an average and used a stepwise selection, and I was done, and they end up with a good answer. Well, with this data set and with analytics in general and with life in general, sometimes just simple and get it done gives you a pretty good answer. So when you make things unnecessarily complicated, that's when you have a problem. So just for fun, is there a way to perform a variable selection with proc logistic or proc? Yes, I'll even show you how to do that. If you want to do variable selection, it's just like this. Let's not put in all these plots. What I would do is let's get rid of the plots and the scoring and just select the variables. And then when you get the model you like, then do this, okay? So what I would do is this guy right here, and then I would just do selection equals stepwise. And this should work. And unfortunately, in my case, he liked them all. So I only have 3 variables in the model. But let's see if I can put a few more in there. Let's see if we can find variables that don't have any missing values. Do that, and we'll put anybody who doesn't have a missing value in there because I don't feel like fixing anybody. Numeric. Say, look at that. That's going to tell me all of the numeric values right there. So let's see. Let's see. Oh, look at this. We could do the kids at home, blue book of the car, time in force, oldest claim, claim frequency, MPR points. Okay, let's try some of these guys. I'm just gonna. I could go in and try to fix the ones that are missing, but I'm just trying to keep this as simple as possible. So I'm gonna only just select guys who. Okay, index. Now we know index shouldn't be a predictive variable, so we'll put that in there. index. Let's see, kids drive. Let's see, age, 6 people didn't tell me their age. Okay, home kids. That's how many kids are at home. Travel time, we have Blue Book, time in force. Time in force, old claim, claim frequency. Whoop. And I just realized I don't have my caps lock on, which that doesn't matter, but I have a problem. I'm OCD, and this is going to drive me nuts that these are not capitalized. In fact, I'm not really OCD, I'm CDO. It has to be alphabetized. These are some funny jokes. I know you guys are all on mute and you're not laughing, but it's funny stuff. Let's see. So let's try running this now. Okay. So here we go. This is the final answer. What happened? We did the proc, we ran the proc logistic here with the stepwise selection. And what made it in there? Well, it looks like pretty much everybody made it in, except we didn't get the index value. And that's good because the index value should not have made it in. So anyways, somebody had asked that question. Did this, Seth Thompson, did that answer your question? Is it possible to post the code you had with the scoring in the test before you did the selection? Oh, yeah, Seth. In fact, if you look, the code's still in there. So this is the variable selection, but this is where I did with the test. So in other words, this code right here, well, I'll put this code down here so that it's not, this is variable selection stuff. I'm going to get rid of this other stuff here. Well, heck, we might just leave it in here. Well, no, it's going to start confusing people, so we'll just stick with this.
And
so
there's another question out there.
Okay,
is there a way to use decision tree for the problem?
Yes, there's a way to use decision trees. The problem is this. It's not easy to do with SAS unless you have Enterprise Miner. I think, let me just, don't, I'm going to try something. Proc split. I think
Paul said it's easy to do in R.
Oh, I know it's easy to do in R. You can do it with, there's a command called rpart, R-P-A-R-T. There might be some other ones that are good. I'm seeing if you can do it in, and incidentally, if you do it in R, you can solve the problem, and so you get points for doing R. And here's another crazy thought: if you do this, and then you see what variables are used to solve the problem, make a big note of that. Use those variables. Just hard code them right in to a proc logistic and say, hey, Don, I used decision trees to do variable selection. And guess what? You got some more points coming. And if you really want to get crazy, you use the decision trees to fix a missing value. And again, that's another way that's real, you'll start cranking, accumulating these points because these are good techniques that people use every day in the real world, and they never show them to you in school. And then you have to learn them on your own. I'm just trying to give you guys a head start on, you go out there in the real world and you show your boss you know how to do this stuff, and he's going to go, dang, you had a great instructor for generalized linear models. And you guys are going to go, yep. And he was the best looking instructor at Northwestern.
Okay, they're all laughing.
These are pity laughs, I know. Okay, I'm just going to I don't know if this is going to work or not. Proc split. I don't know the syntax of this off the top of my head. Nope. That was DuckDuckGo. Google. Let's try Google. Okay. I think it's proc split tree. Let's just see real quick. I love Google. Okay. Let's just see the example real quick with a categorical target. There we go. Let's see. I think it's just proc split. You know what? I'm going to have to, I don't think this is going to be easy. I'll post some code. I'll make a mental note to do that. I'll try to find out the exact syntax for proc split. I think I have it somewhere. I thought it was just going to be something trivial. But doing this with R, if you do it with Angus, if you do it with Weka, if you do it with, give me another one, Python, if you do it with one of these guys, it's can be, any of those things will work just fine. Otherwise, you have to use Enterprise Miner, which I love, and again, you can get points for that too. But it's just not everybody has it working, because I don't think it works real well with Macintosh. So, anyways, so let's see if we got some other questions here. So we got about 10 minutes left, and then we have to do our next sync session, our show and tell. But do we have other questions on this stuff, or has this been of assistance to you? Some part of me is wondering if I'm recreating some things I've done in prior, for some reason I thought that this is like recreating some prior sync sessions. Well, we got a person in the background. Who's showing their camera? I like that. Who is that? Oh, nobody. Somebody was showing their camera. I don't know who that is. Well, I'm glad this was helpful, Kevin. I guess we have a few minutes. Let me show you one other thing. In case you guys really want to get crazy, let me show you how you can go for some bonus points. Okay. Now, right now, this guy right here is figuring out if the person, will the person crash their car? Let's do a second model down here of if they crash their car, what did it cost me? Okay, so that's what we're going to go for. So let's do this. Let's go. Let's just say that. Let's just do nothing but the blue book of the car. Okay. Now I think the blue book of the car is not. There's no missing values. Okay, right here. There's no blue. Okay, we're gonna predict values only from the blue book value of the car. Okay. Well, the first thing we got to do. Something happened to my mouse. Okay, there we go. There we go. So the first thing let's do is this. We're going to do data temp file set in file. So again, we do this because I don't like to monkey around with my data set. That's a quick way to lose a data set. You might overwrite it. So I always copy it. Now, here's what we're going to do. If I were to look right now, proc means data is equal to temp file and I'm going to do the just the mean value and nothing else. And I'm going to do the variable, I think it's target amount. Isn't that the case? Does anybody, yeah, target AMT. Target, AMT, and Blue Book. Okay, let's just do this right now. And I think we got an error. Blue Book is not found. Oh, that's because we misspelled it. And notice how I said we, because I think that we should all share in the blame. There we go. So that's the average damage. However, this is everybody. Remember, not everybody crashed their car. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to build a model, because what we want to build a model on is if the first model is did they crash their car? The second question is if they did crash their car, what did it cost me? Well, first thing I got to do is if you didn't crash your car, I don't care. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say if the target amount is greater than 0, which means you crashed your car. I'm only going to look at the people who crashed their car right now. So if we do that, we now find out that the real average is $5,702. Okay, so let's just do a proc regression. That's just, well, if you really want to get crazy, we could do proc univariate here. Let's just grab the syntax from up here. And we're almost done, believe it or not. This is going to be great. Precision timing. Now, I'll tell you what let's do. This is what the distribution looked like before we got rid of the people who didn't crash their car. And you can see most people don't crash their car. So it's got a great big giant spike at 0. It's 0 inflated. But we want to get rid of those guys. If you didn't crash your car, I don't want to predict what your damages are. I only want to look at the people who did crash their car. So let's do this again. And now when we look at it, you can see most people have damages of about actually about in the $5,000 range. The mean average is 5,702. Okay, now what are we going to do? We're going to just do a proc regression. Data is equal to temp file. We're almost done, believe it or not. And let's just build our target like this. Target is equal to this guy. Oops, no, not target, model. Wait, what's the syntax for that? Yeah, model. Okay, and let's just take a quick look. And we wait a moment. We wait again. We keep waiting. And I'm a little surprised this has taken so long. So while this is running, does anybody have any questions? We got some stuff in the chat window. Help me out, Dee. What are they asking? Why did you
include quit?
That's because proc regression is one of the procedures at SAS that you can keep running it, so you can have a couple of model statements in a row. It's not necessary because as soon as SAS sees that you're doing something else, it assumes that you're done running proc regression. But it's just a best practice. It's just one of those things that you should get in the habit of doing certain things. Now, let me show you something. My adjusted R squared here is 1%. And I know you guys are going nuts because you're like, that's crazy. Well, yeah, but insurance data is notoriously difficult to model. And so, maybe 1%, I might work on this a little bit. However, that being the case, I still would never expect most insurance problems. You aren't going to get like you're going to get in academia. You're not going to get 75, an R squared of 75. You're going to get like 1, 2, 3% or 5% or something. And you're going to consider that to be lucky. Okay, so anyways, what did we get here? We got something like this, which are, give me where are my coefficients? Okay, here they are. So this is what I'm going to do. So let's go back up here. And this was my deploy model right here, right? But let's do it again. Let's come down here and we're just going to key target amount. And this is, again, the amount of what is it going to cost me if I crashed my car. So we know that that's going to be this number right here and the Blue Book value of the car. Now, this is going to be, as they say, easy as falling in love. Okay. So if I crash, this is the probability of crashing my car. However, if I do crash my car, this is what it's going to cost me. So what does the insurance company charge you? If I have a 10% chance of crashing my car and it's going to cost me $1,000, that means that the insurance company has a 10% chance of having to pay $1,000. Well, that means that what their real risk is 10% of 1,000, which is $100. So what we're going to want to do, and that's called the pure premium. So the insurance company wants to charge the pure premium, and this is what you would do for the bingo bonus, is you would do pure premium or whatever, and you would just do the target amount here times, because this is going to give you the what's the chance that you're going to crash your car, and if I do, it's going to cost me this much money. And voila, we are done. So let's print the first couple of these guys out. And I'll post this code right after our sync session. There we go. So this guy has an 18% chance of crashing his car. If he does crash his car, it's going to cost me $5,699, which means that the insurance company has to charge me 18% times this. So the insurance company is going to charge me $1,028 to insure me. This guy has a 20% chance of crashing his car. If he does, it's going to cost me this much money. So the insurance company is going to charge me $1,090 to insure me. So that's how this works. So I'm just showing you how to solve the bingo bonus problem, insurance part B, that you can just, and in fact, I'm going to give you another clue. Probably the best model you're going to come up with is going to be like the Blue Book and maybe the age of the car and maybe the type of the car. There's not a lot of other things. If the guy crashes his car, the fact that his kids are driving is irrelevant. I mean, the car is getting totaled. I don't care who's behind the wheel. It's the fact that the car is a Corvette. That's the important thing. So I'm just giving you a little hint on what the best model might be. So I think we're officially up against the time, but I'm going to make sure that everybody got their questions answered before we open up the show and tell part. So do we have any final questions? And maybe after the show and tell, I'll just stay on the line for a little bit and people can ask other types of questions. But do we have any other thoughts, questions, comments? I posted my R decision tree sample code in the course code set. Hey, thank you very much, Paul. Hey, Paul, if you, I was just going to say, if you email it to me, I'll post it in both sections, but if not, I'll go find it. But if you send me an email, I'll be your best friend. Thanks so very much. So did I have any other questions or comments? Okay, so with that in mind, I'm going to stop the recording and then we'll start up recording it again so that we can do the show and tell. So let's officially call stop sharing, or I'm sorry, recording stop.